Hey guys, welcome in. Today we're going to be talking about our military rewards program.
Welcome to Community Real Estate Roots, Agents Building Relationships, where we explore the heart of real estate through meaningful connections. Join Alicia, Deidre, and Lisa as they guide you through stories behind every sold sign and dive into how agents nurture communities, one home and one relationship at a time.
Welcome back. We are here with Deidre and Lisa and Matt. Since he's joined us. And today we will be talking about our military rewards program. Did y'all know we had a military rewards program?
Yes.
I love our military reward programs. You know that because I turned them on to you when you got
First
here.
started, yep.
Yeah, one of the things I learned early on in my career as a realtor is that there's so many military families that really do not know what different type of benefits are out there for them. And this program, especially those first ones buying houses and things of that nature, just have no idea what that is. And so I'm very thankful that I work for a brokerage that does support military. And we have 2 military rewards programs that we can offer our military families. One
Is the military rewards program.
And
Navy Federal.
Navy Federal is the second one. Military rewards is one that not only rewards the actual soldier, or I guess that's how you would...
Service member.
The service member. Matt's going to make sure we say the right lingo.
He's going to keep us politically
Yeah,
correct.
he's going to keep us with the right lingo. So you'll
But that's
probably see
good,
us
'cause,
staring
yeah.
at you because we want to say it the
Well,
right way.
and I can help you from my perspective and from being that soldier. This is what's going on with the soldier or the service member when they arrive to their unit. They have been given a certain amount of time to find a house or to find lodging, is how the military puts it. They're coming into a new job, possibly the first time they've ever executed that position, so they're nervous about performance and all that stuff. They have a new command that's breathing down their neck saying, hey, look, you've got time to find lodging. Usually it's a couple of weeks. They call it permissive TDY, and you can tack it on with your leave. But that service member, they're by and large, they're starting to think about this new job. And so when somebody says, hey, look, you need to look at all the benefits that you get, they'll hand them a book. And I'm talking, it's a tome. And it may be $5 off the next car wash, or it could be something related to this with a large purchase that has a significant emotional event, specifically with finances. And so the husband and the wife, or the team, whoever the service member is, and whatever their relationship is, they're having to come together in the evenings and talk about what's going on and how they're going to do this. And they have their wants, their needs, their desires, and all of that. But they don't understand the nuts and the bolts. And so they're counting on someone to come in and be like, look, this is what we have. And they honestly, if you can lay it down with it as a checklist and say pros, cons, that makes all the sense in the world to the service member. And so they they understand their job, they understand their family, they understand their needs and all that stuff. But when people start rolling out all of these lengthy programs and saying this is what you got, they're going to start glazing.
Zoning out.
Yeah, their eyes are going to glaze over. And so it's really, really nice to belong to an organization like Yara King that not only supports the soldiers and their families, their service members and their families, but understands and has empathy for the position that they're in. Because you may only have a brief contact with this individual, and they may only be here for a very limited period. They may think they're going to be here for 5 years, but in reality they're going to be here for 3, and they're going to move on to another assignment. But that network that they create within the military, I would say, if it's 6 degrees of separation in the civilian sector from anything in any content, whatever, it's 3 in the service. So, you're going to have soldiers coming and going, and if they're lucky, they're going to have left seat, right seat time with the person that's already in the position they're filling, and they're going to say, who did you use to navigate this process? And they're going to say, oh, well, you got to call Lisa, or you got to call Matt, or you got to call Deidre, or call them. They will not steer you wrong, and they're going to take that as the gospel.
Yeah. No, they do. I had that. I actually had that experience, but the the cool thing I like about our military rewards program that we offer at ERA King is because it's truly a family reward. So
It's not just
it's
the
like
serviceman.
we can use you as an example with your son that goes to UAB. Let's say he decides he wants to buy a house, we can still reward him with military rewards because of the service that you and his mom did, because he sacrificed time in his life because his parents were
Oh, yeah.
deployed
100%.
or whether. So the military rewards program I love because it does support the entire family. I have one family that I started with the parents, and now their kids are older, and I've gone through 3 of their 4 kids, and all 3 of those have gotten their military rewards. And they called me a couple of weeks ago and said, okay, I think the 4th one's ready. And I joked with him. I said, okay, well, we're going to hurry up with some grandkids if I'm going to keep this pattern going. So it's just great to be able to talk about a family that you were able to reward 5 different people
Oh, yeah. And
from that part as well. And your father-in-law that just came here,
yes.
he got military rewards.
He's a Vietnam era vet.
Yeah, I gave. We were able to service him on that. So that program is great.
Oh, and it speaks volumes for itself.
Right.
Because in my unit before I retired, there was 3 of us that did transactions for whether it was a home sale or a home purchase, and we all went through ERA King, but we didn't network. We didn't talk about it. All of a sudden, it was just like, yeah, I sold my house. Oh, who'd you use? Oh, I used ERA King. I used Terry, or I used,
Right.
And it was like,
Terry's a
She's a big one on it.
so
Terry
we,
is a big military. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so it was like, once we started peeling back the layers on the onion, and because we were talking, we have sidebars all the time. We text and whatever. We group chat with all the retirees, and they were just like, I wouldn't use anybody else because of the military rewards program.
Yeah.
It's that much of a benefit, and so being able to vocalize it and get it out and see it in practice is impressive.
Well, and the reward is a monetary reward. So depending on the price structure of your purchase will depend on how much your I call it the fun check you get at
closing.
Closing. So it I had one not too long ago. He said, these are the blinds for my house.
Right.
Mama's refrigerator.
Yeah, so they, were able to do that. And you just had a couple of clients that closed not too long ago that you sold the house and they purchased another house. So
they were shocked that I actually gave them 2 checks at closing.
So it's per transaction.
Yes, not just person, but
Right.
2. It was a transaction and another transaction, and I don't remember exact total, but I think it was close to $2,800 that I just gave right back to them, and
And we thank them for we thank them for their service.
and
That's
she
what
was
it's
like
for.
this, and that was the one. She's like, "This is literally going to buy a refrigerator. Like, thank you."
Yeah, I mean, so it's really cool from that part. But then the second one is Navy Fed. Navy Fed's a little different. Have you done a Navy Fed yet?
I've not, but I'm a member of Navy Fed.
You're a member, yeah. So ERA King is a preferred brokerage for Navy Federal for the area. So we get incoming Navy servicemen, although are Navy people called something different?
You can call them service members. Sailors usually. But.
Yeah, sailors. And I had one that it was funny, Matt, because you were talking about going through them purchasing that first house.
Yeah.
He was on deployment when his wife started the process with me He never saw the house
No, I've seen that.
until he got here. We tried to, and where he was, when we were looking at houses during the day, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
where he was. So we truly had, I was like, we can schedule this so it's not 3 a.m. for you. So you have to strategically not just set up showings with the wife, but you've got to be able to let hubby at some point in time FaceTime in to help make that decision.
I've been on the other side of that while deployed, having a friend of mine who was looking at a house, and his wife like took him through on a FaceTime.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
so
through a.
we're all looking over his shoulder, watching the computer, and we're like, oh, yeah, look at
Nice kitchen.
look at the garage. Oh, they painted the floor. And so we're all like super excited. And then the call ended, and I was like, so you gonna buy the house? He's like, I really don't care. He goes, as long as she's happy. And I was like, but it was fun because it was something. It was a distraction for us. And,
Yeah, and this one was the one that they really fell in love with. Was pretty small square footage, super cute house. They had 2 girls. And for me, I'm super nervous because they're trusting in me to help with that decision. And it was so funny. One day I was talking to him. He and I were just talking, and I said, I just want to make sure that you understand the square footage of this house. And he said, Lisa, I know that's a concern, and you keep saying that, but this house is bigger than any place we've stayed on base.
yeah.
I went, okay, that makes sense though.
And that's not a diss on base lodging at all.
No, it's not. It's just that's what it is. But in our minds that don't experience that, we don't see it as being a small. We don't see them being on base in a small house. We don't think that it's.
We don't even see how they live.
Yeah,
Well,
we
okay,
don't
so-
even think it's that small. So I'm finding them a house that he was coming here on a recruitment assignment
Recruiting, yeah.
and was going to be here for 3 years. And he called me 4 months before he was going to get his orders. He said, "Okay, I got the first letter," and it was like we had already had it in the plans on when the for sale sign was going to go in the front yard. But even though Navy Fed sent him to us, he became my client. And from that point on, we had the relationship. And when he moved, he also received another Navy Fed reward. And they're back in Virginia now. That's where they went back to. So I love it. It's really cool because I have several military families that don't live here anymore, and I'll just get a random text on how they're doing. So,
And I think that's another cool thing with having you on here. You see it from the perspective of them.
Yes.
Whereas you see the perspective of things that we would never even think about considering to add into the factor. So when you're talking about the checklist, you know what the checklist should be, what's going to be important to these people, like I'm hitting the table, but like the timeline and all these things that,
214 form that they'll, all those forms and stuff. I had no clue going through all that stuff that, that's just great knowledge to know on your end.
Yeah.
Even for us.
Well,
for you to educate us.
every branch of service has a different form number
Right.
that does the same thing. Like,
yeah, we're going to let Zell help us with that
But,
here shortly, too.
your DD 214 is your proof of your service, and what it does is.
Did I get the number right?
Yes. Yeah.
Look at you!
Yeah, the DD 214 is something that we as veterans we'll look at. You don't walk up to somebody and be like, "Hey man, let me see your DD 214," because it's a summary of your service. So
Right.
it has all of your awards on it, tells you where your assignments were, all your schools, all that
like
stuff.
a resume.
But sort of, kind of. We have a service career resume, but that's more of a mentorship type thing. But with the 14, what you're looking for down at the bottom is your character of service and then your reentry code if you're eligible. And so that's one thing that we as veterans we hone in on. But I want to circle back to the housing situation, like on post. And one thing that you guys might not be aware of is that the size of the home usually is defined by the rank of the individual that is.
Yeah, I have heard that.
Is in service.
I learned that not too long ago, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you could go to, well, what's it called now? Fort Bragg is what I'm always going to call it, but it's Camp Freedom or something like that. Camp Liberty, or Fob Liberty, whatever it's called. But you can go on post there, and you can drive right through post, and you'll be in housing, and you can tell that there's a row of townhouses, and that's probably lower enlisted, and then you go around the corner and you see, the 18th Airborne Corps, which is a general officer billet. His mansion is literally it is a mansion, and you're like, wow, why does a guy who doesn't have any kids and
live in that big old house?
Right.
Even is it kind of the same in the barracks, kind of like that? The reason I'm asking is we went to Seattle a couple months ago, and we stayed in a Navy lodge, and my husband was like, "Oh, this used to be a barracks or whatever." I think that's how he put it. Don't quote me.
Barracks.
And he even made the comment, and he said this must have been someone who was higher up, because this is actually a decent room compared to what he had, or something like that. But I was just wondering if it was even there.
You have the option, whether you're a senior NCO or a non-commissioned officer like a sergeant, or you're an officer. When you go to an assignment, you have the option, if it's available, to take on post housing. And so, but if you're single, you could go into single officer or single service member quarters, and some of them are just like apartments. And they, you'll have a place to put a vehicle, whether it's outside covered or whatever. But and a lot of it just depends on availability. But you have the option to either take housing or you go off post. The trick to it is that you're authorized by your pay grade a certain amount for basic allowance for housing. It's a stipend that's issued to you every month. If you live on post, you lose that. But you'll still get your basic allowance for sustenance, for food.
I wish somebody paid me.
So the trick is to always look for a property that is under your budget for housing, because you pocket the rest of that money and you can use it for other things like appliances or upgrades or whatever. So you want to live within your budget, or beneath it if you can. Like my rule of thumb was always buy the nicest, smallest house in the nicest neighborhood. That was always my rule of thumb, and because it was going to move quick. Because what I was always looking for resale was, I'm looking for that senior NCO that wants to move into what is loosely referred to as officer country, or a nice neighborhood like Carolina Lakes, where I lived in back at Fort Bragg. It was a lakeside community, but their budget couldn't afford it. But because of the price threshold of my house, then their allowance could afford them to move into that area. And it was nice there because we were a mixture of non-standard Army units that were in there. So we had at Special Forces, Special Operations guys, most of the people that lived in there had been there for a long time. So to allow lower enlisted to get into that environment, not by assignment of unit, but to be around people that weren't in their unit. It's such a breather to come home and not have anybody from your unit living anywhere near you, because they're going to walk across the yard and they're going to want to talk about what's coming up on Monday or what the boss wants.
Right.
Or
What happened today at work.
Right. And so, when my wife and I, our rule was, you come through the door, rank comes off. I made that mistake once, and it's a funny story. I'll tell you on the sidebar.
Another time.
But the rank comes off when you come through the door, but kids don't bug you until the boots come off. And so once your boots are off, that means you're done with work for the day. And so let's talk about volleyball. Let's talk about soccer. Let's talk about dirt bikes.
Isn't that funny? Okay,
I didn't know
Dad's
about that.
boots are off. We can
talk to him now.
talk to him now.
Go break out
We
the
can
Nerf
attack
guns.
him and wrestle him on the floor.
Well, the Nerf gun was always fair play. If I came through the door and my hat came off and I looked down and saw the Nerf gun, then it was go time.
Game
It was,
on.
it was go time.
Yeah, I was
That is
shooting and
so-
moving.
That's so funny.
Because there was three of them. I mean, they'd come hanging out. One be hanging from the upstairs, leaning through the railing, shooting me, and I'm like, "Oh my God! Don't move! You're gonna get hurt." Did your mom know you're doing that? Come on.
Yeah, no. So we just wanted to let you guys know that either as a military family, or if you're a member of Navy Fed. Now, if you're not a member of Navy Fed, you don't have to be in the Navy to be a member of Navy Fed.
Correct.
Anyone,
because we're not
any
Navy.
armed forces can do that,
But service membership is
and we
required.
can
Yes.
and we can help you do that too if you're not. So we can refer you to the right person. And this also goes back to why representation is so important. I mean, we have to go through a training process for military rewards, Navy Fed, and regular military rewards before we're able to help a service family.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about that? Because when you're talking about certification and qualification to be able to administer or facilitate this process, that's pretty important to service members because they just want to know, how did you get qualified to do this, or what?
Yeah, so for Navy Fed, you have to be a realtor for X amount of years. I think it's 2 years. And then once you hit that threshold, we have a business development department / relocation that helps us through that process. We literally, Navy Federal Credit Union takes us through an online training process, and then we have to recertify ever so often on how Navy Federal Credit Union works. What's the talk track and the language that we use with our military families. So it's super, super important. Same thing with military rewards. You go through a training process in the beginning, and then there's ongoing training. We have ongoing meetings that we talk about. In fact, we just had one last week where the conversation was around military rewards. That's one of the first ones that I just raised my hand and said, I want to get certified in all of that, because I learned early on in my career as a realtor that, again, for the most part, most military families do not know what their options are.
We learned that.
Out that. You
I was not an
know.
agent when we were looking, and we had no idea what was even available for us.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we missed out on several things because we just didn't know, and we did not have an agent that either offered it or knew about it in general. So,
right. So again, I'm going to kind of go back to representation. Who represents you is very, very important. From a training process, for a knowledge process, all those things are super important. And again, I'm very honored to be able to say I work for a brokerage that holds us to that level. So if you are a military family and you are looking to sell or buy, or you just want to have a consultation
or coffee
of the future, because maybe you are going to decide to retire. I mean, Terry, she just had one that she closed in. I think he's fixing an anniversary a year, and he was going to retire, and he was a very high level general that still worked in D.C. And they were coming here. I know I did it for the first time.
Hit the microphone.
I hit the microphone for the first time. I had the honor of meeting him and his wife because Terry was out of town and they had bought new construction. But Terry received him because of her certification through the rewards
and it's important
program. And, you keep that relationship going afterwards too. So,
and it's important to the potential home buyers out there that are veterans or currently serving to understand that this isn't just a rubber stamp process to be able to offer this program. It's the agents that are involved with this have volunteered to go and do this training on their own,
right?
In order to become certified to serve a very niche community, and so it's not.
Not every agent can do this.
Exactly.
Not every brokerage offers this.
And as I said, we don't live in we don't live right next door to Fort Benning or to Fort Bragg or to whatever the names of the posts are these days. But so it's not like we're catering to an existing clientele. It's you're catering to a niche, because less than 1% of us serve in the population of the United States.
Right.
And so it's not like you're trying to go and sell all of Mountain Brook. I mean, you're specifically looking to put your skills and expertise available to service members and to communicate and help guide them through this. It can be a very daunting process.
Yeah.
So if y'all are looking, have questions with anything, give any one of us a call. Hit us up on our socials, and we will walk you through this process because we've been through it. We've been certified. We're doing it. So
We're the professionals.
yes, we are. So we are going to call this another wrap, and we will see y'all next time.
Thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to our YouTube channel, Your Neighbor, Your Agents. Please visit www.yourneighboryouragents.com.